And Tony, take it away.
After a successful bank heist, you and your fellow thieves are laying low and enjoying the good life. Most of the cash has been hidden away, and the rest has been invested in businesses throughout the city. Everything is going according to plan until the police make a breakthrough in their investigation. Accusations are made, fingers are pointed, and after a heated argument, you decide to go your separate ways. Chaos ensues as the SWAT team is called in and starts to close off the city's exits. Your only choice now is to escape the city before it's completely locked down. But you need a plan. A route that allows you to leave the city while recovering as much of the money as possible. You will need to call in some favours, hire local gangs to create diversions. Disguises may help, but they don't fool everyone. Setting the police on the trail of your former colleagues will give you a better chance of escape, but the other thieves are thinking the same thing. Will you escape with the most money? Or will the police lock down the city before you can get out?
Dun, 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 dun. Thank you for that Scottish reading of Escape Plan there, Tony.
You're welcome.
All right, so what do you guys looking? Tonight's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be chaos. All right, so what are y'all looking at here? So Tony's going to be kind enough to play Vanna for me out here on the board. So here on the main board, the main board is basically divided into 5 main areas. Here in the center, we have city tiles, which we might as well go ahead and turn these bad boys up like so. So we have city tiles with various law enforcement officers that will come out here on the board, and we can go ahead and seed those as well. And then there's room for the city to expand or really to be discovered, but we're going to be expanding with these tiles over here. Player pawns are going to start on the board on the hospital location up here. So like so. So all 5 of us are actually going to be there. Then down here at the very bottom are 5 different patrol cards. So we will secretly reveal or take one of these out without revealing it and put it back in the box before we get started. These are going to determine which of the 3 exits players will be able to escape the city late game. Now, on the left side on the top, there is the time track, the turn order track, and the notoriety track as well. Then working our way downwards, we have the gang members or chopper motorcycles and a reference for the associated actions that they provide. Continuing down the left side, we have the convenience store area. We have locker tiles, green, black, and brown. Think of them as safes. Then we have equipment tiles for protection from the police, and then gas cans. And seriously, when I was going through this, I was like, this really is the Grand Theft Auto version of a convenience store, isn't it? I mean, that's not your typical 7-Eleven, at least in my experience. Now, over here on the right side, we have businesses and the safe house area. There are 3 different areas. There are 2 groupings of 3 businesses each, and safe houses, which there are 3 of them. In the safe houses, there are 3 key rings with 3 keys on each of them, and a stack of fixer tiles as well. And all 3 have associated bonuses, as you can see down here. And obviously, we'll explain all of that as we go along. Now, off board, we have a ton of stuff as well. We have the city tiles that are going to be added to the game, and they're in 4 different stacks, the A, B, C, and D stack. Then, as you kind of saw Helen putting out, we have a bag of law enforcement officers. Then we have the exit tiles up there at the very, very top. Then the contract card display and deck. Then extra action discs as well. And the bank is off camera, but it looks a lot like just cash. There you go, big, huge, chunky cardboard bits. And of course, handcuff cards, which if all goes well, you actually won't see those used throughout the game. Then over here on our player tableaus, we have individual player boards. We are not playing with the asymmetric powers tonight because we figured there's enough going on for the first teach. So we just have the symmetric boards. We have notoriety markers up here in the top left-hand corners. We have unlocked asset tiles. So right here, we have the first asset tile that is always unlocked. This is the extra action asset tile. And this is always in the 5K space here. Then there's equipment and locker storage. So the equipment and locker storage is up here. There are actually 5 spaces, but the first 3 have locked asset tiles in them. And it does not matter which one goes into which area. That's neither here nor there. Then we have a first aid bandage, like so, there. Then wounds and wound markers. So these represent the wounds that we may, well, likely will take throughout the game. Then we have the rest token here, which is sunny side up, kind of like how I like my eggs. We have an extra action space for the extra action tokens to be able to go onto, like so. And then at the very bottom, over here, we have the contract card storage and the 3 remaining locked asset tiles. So you start off with 2 tile places available and 2 contract cards available. Then we have the income track up here. It starts to where our income begins at $9 and will decrease as we put these income markers out on the board. Then we have a player screen. As you can see, we all start with $9. This is the only thing that the screen is used for, is for you to hide your money. And there is a player aid of sorts. So this player aid here shows the exit costs here, and then everybody also has a secret escape plan. And don't worry, I don't mind showing this off because we're going to shuffle this up before the game begins. Now, one thing that I am going to kind of highlight here is you can see the different locations, and you'll see 2 different symbols on them. One has the green money symbol, and the other has the end-game victory points or end-game money that's going to be on there associated with the 9 locations that you can go and visit to be able to put your cubes out on. All right, I'm going to keep this face up. Normally this will be face down as we go along throughout the game. All right, so that's what everything you guys are looking at, but how is it you actually play the game? You might be wondering. Well, it's a good thing I have prepared a teach for everybody here and all of y'all watching. So here we go. Escape plan is played over 3 rounds or 3 days. So a heist has happened, and now we're trying to escape the city, in which we have 3 days to do so. Unless you're Helen, it might take 4 days, but unfortunately, there are only 3 days in the game. Now, like I said, each round represents 1 day. Over the course of a round or a day, police officers or law enforcement officials are going to spread throughout the city, populating the streets and closing off exits. On our turns, players will use between 3 and 5 actions to travel around the city, recovering their hidden money, hiring gangs, visiting stores to buy disguises, and open lockers, etc. Due to these players' actions, players' notoriety may increase, unlocking new abilities as we go up that track. While unfortunately, doing so causes police officers to become more aware of them, which makes it more and more difficult to do actions. On the 3rd day, players attempt to leave the city through the only open exit, but they need to have enough money to pay for their escape. Otherwise, they're arrested, score no points, cannot win the game. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. The winner of the game, whoever escapes with the highest amount of cash. So the game, as I said, lasts 3 days, with each day following it follows the following 6 phases. Okay, all right. So the 6 phases. First off is income. We're going to skip this on the first day. All right. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to get paid. So at the beginning of the game, we start with $9. Oh, hey, we already got that. That's why we skipped that phase. Then the second phase is patrol. The popo starts closing exits and tightening the noose around the robbers. Then the city phase, which is where we're going to place these tiles out here on the board as such. Then we're going to adjust turn order based on notoriety. Then the player actions, and the player actions are split into 5 actions. So there is morning, afternoon, evening, night, and dawn. And then finally advance to the next day, which is preparing for the next round. Easy enough. So phase 1 is income. Get your income based upon the highest amount visible on your income track on your player board. That's really simple. If you have these 2 out there, what numbers does that show? 7? Okay, get that amount of money. Pretty easy, right? Then, and only then, players with 1 or 2 notoriety can pay $3 to unlock the asset tile. So if you are here or here, those players can pay $3 to unlock an asset tile. Which asset tile can they unlock? It can be any of these 6 tiles. It does not matter, even if it's this far one over here. They would pay the $3 to unlock this. They then place it over here to the highest costing unlocked asset space, so the only one there, and then we're going to fill that in. So we either move like that, or maybe we move it like here. However, you can freely move these asset tokens however you want throughout the game, but know that any of these can be unlocked using that action. Does that make sense? All right, cool. So there's one for those scoring at home. So that is income. That's the first phase. The second phase is the patrol. What we're going to do is we're going to reveal the top 2 cards from this deck here. And again, we're going to shuffle all this up and reset everything before we get started. So we reveal the top 2 cards of the deck, the little walkie-talkie space down here. And on day 3, there will only be 1 card, so we'll only reveal the 1 remaining card. If the associated exit is either on the board on a face-up tile or off-board on a face-up tile. So you'll notice that exit number 3 is actually right here on one of the face-up tokens right there. We're going to place one of the stack of exit tiles. Fellas, we're going to place one of the stack of exit tiles on that exit space as such, okay? If a second card, so if this had been a 3, so both of these being 3 exit cards, this is going to happen twice during the game. That exit is now permanently blocked, and that means it will not be the exit that the players use to escape the city. However, if the exit is not on the board nor on one of the face-up tiles, so you'll notice that the exit 2 is not out here. It's not listed out here anywhere. We're going to place a stack of exit tiles on that exit card space until it's revealed. So we're going to physically move that onto there, just as a quick reminder, and then we're going to move it onto the exit space when it is revealed out here, and then it will stay on that tile as it comes out onto the board. Any questions on the first 2 phases of the game?
Nope. Nope.
All right. A moment real quick. Oh. All right. Whew. Sorry, lost my place on my notes. So, all right. The next step, or next phase, is the city phase. What's going to happen here is, beginning with the first player in turn order, so starting here, purple, then yellow, then green, then orange. So sorry, Khan, being pink, that won't happen for you. We're going to choose one of the face-up tiles, and we're going to place it out here on the board. So these will actually get discarded out of the game, etc., etc. So the placement rules are pretty simple. So whoever is purple, in this case Helen, she can choose any of the 4 tiles out here in which to place. And let's say she chooses to place this tile. She can place any orientation however she wants, following a couple rules. And those rules are, first off, it must be adjacent to 2 existing tiles. So right now, the only legal placement for Helen to place this tile is either here or here, because anywhere else it will only touch 1 tile. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. All right. So the other rule is at least 1 region, or one area, 1 land type, if you will, must match. It must touch the same existing area of one of the existing tiles. So in this case, she could not place this over here, because you'll notice that there is water on both sides of this tile. There is no water that is now touching, so that is not an not a legal placement. Whereas if she did like so, this is because we have the commercial districts here touching one another, and even though there's nothing matching over on this tile, that's still a legal placement that is legit, that is allowed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Same goes over here, and it could be that she places like so there to where it matches on both sides. That's fine. However, I do want to see if... here we go. Indulge me. And let's say this were like this. You'll notice that here it touches the greenery and the water location in greenery, and it just barely touches the commercial district right here. That is not a legal placement, because it must share at least some more than just a point like this. So that is not a legal placement. It's a bit of an edge case, but I wanted to point it out and remind everybody like so. So in turn order, going to place whatever tiles are out here. So it would be purple first, then yellow, then green, then orange. In a 5-player game, the 5th player does not get to place a tile. In a 3-player game, it would go first, second, third, and then the first player would then place another tile afterwards. Any questions on placing a tile?
Nope.
After we have done so, we're going to turn all 4 of these back face up, and then we're going to draw the law enforcement agents out of the bag. Now what happens here is when we draw, we're going to draw 2, 1, then 2. If they are 2 different colors, that's okay, no big deal. Then we move on to the next tile. If we draw 2 of the same type, we move on to the next tile. After we have placed, and these will actually be going out onto the face-up tiles out here like so, putting these out here so that the coppers come out on the tiles themselves as is. After we have placed all 4 tiles with law enforcement, any tile that has the same color still on it, one of those get removed and we do not redraw. So in other words, there's one less law enforcement
Popo.
officer.
Yes, sir.
Or the popo. There you go.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, one cop. There's one less cop on that tile to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
All right. So that is everything with phase 3, which is city tile. Okay. Next, we have turn order. Now notice we placed all the tiles in existing turn order, and now we're going to change the turn order in the game. How that works, that's going to be based on notoriety. So let's say it were something along the lines of like so.
They're causing trouble already.
We need to see a tie, right?
All right,
Yeah.
so
Pick a tie.
in notoriety order, so what would happen in this case? We have green and purple having the most notoriety in the game, so they would be first. However, you'll notice that purple was before green last turn, so they're going to reverse place there. Then it's going to go orange, then yellow, then pink. Well, hey, he's not losing points at the end of the game, but he's also not very notorious. So that's how that would go. These do not reset. These stay as they are, but that is how you adjust turn order. Any questions on phase 4 turn order?
Nope.
All right. Moving on now to phase 5, player actions. This is the meat of the game here, all right? Now, this is where the majority of this teach is going to take place. So there are 5 parts. Again, there is moving, afternoon, evening, night, and dawn. These are represented by these spaces over here. And you'll notice that there are 3 on here without X's, and then there are 2 with X's on them, and this red line in between. The reason for that, well, we'll get into that in a minute. In turn order, each player must take a single action on their turn on each of the 3 parts of the day. So meaning first part, second part, third part, you must take actions on those. After each player has taken their single action in the morning, the time marker is moved down to the next space, and now notoriety is adjusted as need be for all the players, depending on how they have acquired or lost notoriety, as based on where they have these stars up here throughout that they actually messed with on their turn. Then you do this again for afternoon. Then we do it for evening. And then the final 2 times of day or night and dawn, are for players who wish to discard extra action discs that they've acquired. Again, in turn order. So again, it would be green, purple, orange, yellow, pink having the option. So let's say we've gone down and now it becomes yellow's turn. Well, I look at my board. I do have an extra action marker that I've acquired through previous actions here. I can choose, when it becomes my turn to decide, to discard a single extra action disc and take 1 additional action, just like in the previous 3 times. So it's a regular action when you choose to discard this. All right. After the earliest player in turn order is finished, then the next player can choose to discard an extra action token and take the extra action, etc., etc. Then, after all the players do or do not take an extra action, notoriety again is adjusted. And then we go into the dawn phase. And I should point out that even if you did not take an extra action during the night phase, if you wish to take one during the dawn, you can do so. If you did take one and you have an extra action disk, you can also take one there. So it's a max of 2 per day per player, obviously, because there are only a total of 2 times in which you can do so. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Any questions on that?
No.
All right. On your turn, you must, and Vital's famous for this, what? It's a simple game. You have 2 choices on your turn. You must take one of 2 actions. You either rest or move. So on our handy dandy little player aid right here, you'll see that you either move or rest. Easy enough. We're going to talk about the rest action first because that's the easiest of the 2. You do 3 steps in this order. The first thing you're going to do is flip this from sunny side up to the night side to show that you've used it and you cannot take that action again. So when it's on the night side, you cannot rest. But then you flip face up any face down contract cards. So if I had a contract card here face up and I had this one face down, you'll see that this iconography matches the iconography here. When I do so, I flip that over like so. And if I had, thank you very much, if I had a used equipment tile, I then could flip it up, face up. And if I had multiples, I could do that, so on and so forth. And if I had used my first aid token, showing that it's a used Band-Aid, I can also flip that back over as well. And now all of those are usable again. And in addition to that, you get to unlock any one locked asset tile. So kind of like I had explained earlier regarding notoriety. So I would have maybe moved that over. And you know what? I have that free. So maybe I choose to unlock this one, or maybe I choose to unlock this one. There, it goes just like earlier. It goes into the most expensive space, and then I can freely move these around however I want, maybe like so. And now I have an unlocked space like that. And these require executive actions, which we'll cover later on. Now, you can only rest once per day, so a maximum of 3 per game, because there's only 3 rounds in a given day. And as I mentioned, you can also take executive actions if they're allowed before or after resting in addition. So either rest or move, you can take executive actions. But that's the rest action. So easy enough? Any questions on those? I'll actually leave these face up for examples.
Nope.
Any questions?
Nope.
Oh.
Okay.
What?
There's one point. When you're unlocking these asset tiles, you do move them into the most expensive space, like you said, but these only slide to the right.
Okay.
These are 2 separate sections, and you
I
can't
apologize.
change them through
Okay,
sections.
so what Jess is talking about is these 3 up here have to stay up here. So maybe
Yes.
I can unlock that one, and then I can move that over.
Yes, you
I
can.
can exchange those however I want to
Yes.
do that. But these at the bottom have to stay.
Correct.
These get
Yep.
changed.
They just slide to the right.
Yeah.
Understood. Have to slide to the right. Got it. Easy enough.
We've been
All right.
taking a look.
Any questions on rest?
All good.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about moving. You got to move it, move it. There's a move. 3 steps in order: travel, avoid, and visit. Okay? So you have to do those 3 things when you move. So let's go ahead and flip over and talk about each of those. So when it comes to travel, we're going to talk about normal movement first. And we're just going to put out a bunch of tiles. We're going to have to reset all of this anyways. We're going to do like so. We'll go ahead and maybe put this one there. There, easy enough. And let me get one more like so out here.
And some police.
Just
Oh yeah, we'll just throw some cops out there and let's
Yeah.
say it ended up.
Just throw the
Okay.
cops.
All right, so there we go. So normal movement, you get a maximum of 3 movement points, plus 1 if you get a gas can, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit, and you can have a maximum of 2 gas cans. How do you know that? You have 2 gas can spots. Easy enough. All right. Crossing a different type of land/location expends 1 movement point. Thank you. And let's go ahead and throw this one up here. There. All right. Again, crossing any different type of land/location expends 1 movement point. 1 contiguous series of the same type of land is considered 1 space regardless of how long it is. So if we're up here and I want to, well, I probably ought to talk about water as well, since we're going to be crossing that first thing. Water can only be crossed via normal movement if at least one of the tiles that is attached to the body of water has a ferry icon on it. And you'll notice the ferry icon is this border out here on it and a little F in blue, i.e. ferry icon. There's also one right here on this one. But you'll notice that this one does not have it, this one does not have it, nor does this one. But because this is all one huge contiguous series of water, and at least one of them has the ferry icon, means a ferry services that whole lake, river, body of water. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you're allowed 3 movement to and from. Your movement must end on a location. Okay, a location are any of these hexagonal pieces out here or any of these circle locations on the board. So we start at the hospital, and if it's my turn, because it's a whole lot easier to talk about it as if it were my turn. So crossing a border, moving into a different type of terrain costs 1. So 1. I'm now in the water, I can go wherever I want. So now I say I go 1 into the grassland, being 2, and 3, I go into the convenience store. That is 3 movement. That's really simple, right? If I chose to go, say 1 into the grass, 2, and then 2 into the convenience store down here, that's also allowed. Or if I wanted to go 1 into the water, 2, and then 3 into the subway. We'll talk about the subway here in a minute. In fact, it's a minute, so let's do it. So subway movement, think of it as a teleport. That's the easiest way to think about this. It also provides +1 movement so that you get 4 movement points instead of 3 movement points. And let me just guess, oh, hey, looky there. There is a subway. So going back to our original example, we have 1 into the water, 2 into the dark area, which I believe is the industrial location, 3 into the subway. The subway conveys 1 extra movement point, and then 4 over into the other subway. We'll talk about evading here in a little bit, but just know that that is the 4 movement actions right there spent. If that maybe I had been, say, maybe I ended my turn there previously. On my next turn, I could go 1, and now I still have 3 more movement, and I could go, say, 2, 3, like that.
It's free. Free movement between the 2 subway stops, actually.
And then +1 on top of that. Yeah,
Okay,
so you
fair
get to
enough.
teleport between the subways.
Okay, fair enough. The example in the rule book's wrong. Yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough. So there you go. But there's the subway movement. Any questions on subway movement? All right? All right. Then there's heliports, which heliports are these locations with the border just like the ferry, but they're with the red H's on them. These spend 1 movement point to move to any land or location 1 or 2 tiles away. So what does that mean? If, and I'm trying to find, do we have a heliport location? We don't, but we do. There we go. So a heliport here, if I were in this space, on my turn, I can move anywhere within 2 tiles to any land or location space for 1 movement. So let's say I want to go 1. That's legit.
Nice.
Easy enough. Okay? There is a bit of a there was a bit of a discussion about the difference between helipads, meaning tiles with the H around the outside, and a heliport, which is the actual location. As these cards come out, we'll make the distinction between them. I'm not going to belabor that right now, though. But those are the 3 different types of movement. Regular movement, 3 movement points. Subway movement, 4 movement points. And a teleport, as well as helicopters in moving to an adjacent location for 1 movement point. Adjacent, 1 or 2 tiles away, location or land.
Yes.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
Ooh, easy for me to say. There we go. All right. After getting back to our handy dandy little player aid here, after you have traveled, you then must avoid, or at least you probably want to attempt to avoid. So what does that mean? When you leave a tile, anytime you leave a tile, moving to a different tile, You must avoid the law enforcement officers on the tile that you left. If you travel to a location on the same tile that you were already on, you skip this step because you didn't leave a tile. So what does that mean? So let's say, and I'm trying to think of a good example, let's say there should be there.
Yeah.
So let's say I were here at the nightclub. All right. On my turn, I have up to 3 movement. I go 1, 2, and I go over there to the gang. I did not leave this tile. I do not have to worry about avoiding those cops. However, if I went from the club to the restaurant, which is backwards in, life, but let's say you go 1, and that's still in the same area. 2, that's a legal move, but now I must try and avoid the popo. All right? To avoid a law enforcement officer, and you have to try and avoid each one of each color, as it were, here, all but red, you must use an executive action, but I'm going to cover that part later. Just know that you must avoid, if there is one of each color on there, you have to avoid one of each color. If there's only one on there, you only have to avoid that one. If, by the grace of God, there is nobody on there, you don't have to avoid anybody. Easy enough.
Right.
Okay? There can never be more than one of a color of a law enforcement officer on a tile. So what that means, there will never be that. Okay? A maximum of 1 per color on a tile. If you use a subway or a helicopter and travel to a location on a different tile, you don't have to avoid the law enforcement officers on the tile. You do have to avoid. Let's go back to this example over here. I'll show you instead of tell you. 1, into the water, because it's a ferry, I can do so. 2, 3, and then travel over to the subway. I left this tile, I have to avoid this cop. I do not have to avoid anyone else en route because it's a teleport. I did not travel via land. So if you go under land or over land, i.e. helicopter or subway, you do not have to. I'm sorry. We have British here. The two. Here. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
The underground. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I'm trying to help. All right. So does that make sense?
Yes.
And thematically, these are supposed to be county sheriffs. The red are federal officers, and the black are SWAT. They are red, blue, and black cops. The end. They gameplay-wise, they are all 3 types are identical, and only the color matters for gameplay.
Okay.
All right. Going back to our original example here, boom, I went to the restaurant. Let's say I could not avoid, for whatever reason. We'll talk about how to avoid here in a little bit. If you cannot avoid, you have to take a wound. So let's talk about how this works. For each wound or each officer that you cannot avoid, you take a wound. So there were 2. I move 1 marker from my green over to I've been wounded side. So each of those is individuals. So that would be if I didn't avoid either one of them, then I would take 2 wounds. Okay? Plan better, but that's okay. If, however, let's say this were the current status, and I took 2 wounds here, I couldn't avoid either one of them. I take 1 wound, and now what's going to happen is I don't have any more markers to be able to move over, so first off, plan better, but then you do the following. You're going to get a handcuff card. You're going to place it on the far right space on your contact card row here. If there is any asset tile, this is removed from the game. However, you can rearrange it with any that are in the contact card row, meaning, I don't want to lose this one. I'll lose this one instead, which is kind of funny because it's removing a wound, but I digress. You then cover that space, and the end game points that you potentially could have gotten there, you no longer can get there. If there were, let's say there were just a whole bunch of contact cards already out here, like so, I then cover the far right one like so. Then you move 1 wound marker back over to from the red box to the green box, and again, if you take multiple wounds, you do them 1 at a time and resolve each one individually. Okay, so that is avoiding, or not, as it were. Any questions about avoiding or not avoiding?
No.
All right. The last one we have to talk about now is visit, which is again the main meat of the game here. If you end your movement on a subway or a heliport, skip this step because that's the end of your movement. You're not actually visiting a location. So if I ended my movement there, or if I ended my movement there, nothing happens. Easy enough. Each location, though, has a series of steps which are carried out every time you visit it. Each step is carried out in order and must be carried out unless the step includes the word may, which of course means it's optional. Some locations list possible situations in which you cannot visit that location. That means you cannot end your movement on that location if you can't visit it. Duh. All right. So businesses. These 6 locations are businesses. When we place tiles, we're going to place your choice of whatever business that you wanted to place on that tile onto that location. And when you end your movement on there, you then take the actions. And thematically, it says the amount of money that you have in the various businesses is shown on your escape plan card. You can only visit each business once during the game. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this again. So we're talking about the bar. I'm sorry. So you'll notice that the bar has in-game points for me worth 100. Okay, so that's a really lucrative place for me to visit. I should probably visit that. So I have done so. Now, obviously, all this is secret information. But when you visit a business, you do the following in this order. You gain 1 notoriety for each other player on the current location. So let's say here that Jess was already there and I traveled to that location. I'm going to gain 1 notoriety, yellow will. So in this case, I'm going to move this marker up there to show that I'm going to gain 1 notoriety for each player. So if Helen were there as well, I would have gained 2 notoriety in which to be able to visit that location. Now you have a total of 4 stars here. If there were, let's say, all 4 in that location, I probably shouldn't have gone there. Correct. I digress, but let's just say, if I ever run out of stars, because during my turn I'm gaining and losing, I then, anytime I would gain another notoriety, I remove 1 that I would lose. Anytime I would lose extra, I would there. And if you ever go higher than 4 in one direction, then it's just negated. I've never seen it, but theoretically it could happen. All right. So that's the notoriety. So for each player, you're going to gain 1 notoriety that's already on that location. All right. Then you take the uppermost cube from your income track and then look it up on your business. Look up the business on your escape plan. So getting back to this, we're going to take this cube because it's the top one there. You have 2 different icons on your card. You have green green cash or end-game points like so. Well, the bar shows that it's an end-game location. So what's going to happen? We're going to take this. We're going to find the bar out here. The bar matches the symbol. If it's an end-game location, you're going to put your marker here. If it's just straight up cash, you put it up there. How much cash would you get immediately? Whatever number this shows here. Easy enough. But as it is, the whole world now knows those are end-game points, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 100 points for me. So that's $50,000 to $100,000 that I've stashed away that I'm going to claim, provided I'm able to escape. All right? Then, last but not least, I'm going to take a contact card. And a contact card, any of the 7 that are available up there. You cannot take mystery meat, meaning you cannot take off the top of the deck. You must choose one of them, then you can do one of the following here. Take a card and just discard it out of the game. I don't want it. I don't want it and you guys don't get it. Okay. And then whenever we take a contact card, it immediately refills. Or, if like so, let me reset my board a little bit. There we go. If I had a space over here, I choose a contact card up there. So let's say I grab this one here and I place it over in the leftmost available space on my board. Okay. If there is no space on my board, I cannot choose that action. However, what I can do, and what I mean by not having any of that space here, let's say this were down here. I really want this guy, but I can't because I don't have space. I can discard one of these out of the game and replace it with that. However, by doing so, they're a little bitter. And so I'm going to gain 1 notoriety for replacing that contact. So what does that mean? Not up there yet. So instead, I'm going to gain 1 more notoriety on there. Okay? Now, there is a limit to how many players can visit a business before you've taken all the money and it closes. So that example earlier, let's say, there we go. The 2 women were already there, and which means there would be 2 cubes up here already. So let's say Jess got cash, and based on their escape plan. Once I visit there, okay, in a 4 or 5 player game, once 3 players have visited there, that business is now going to close, which means nobody else can visit that location unless they have one of the keys. I'll explain those here in a little bit, okay? And any of the keys will be able to work, but more on that again. If that was the 3rd business, and let's say this is out there as well, that was the 3rd business of the same group that I had just visited. At the end of the turn in which you visited the 3rd in that group, you immediately can choose one of the 2 bonuses here. The first one, get an extra action disc. Awesome, that's really nice. This will go, and that's how you can take the extra actions out there. Or you can unlock an asset tile and lose 1 notoriety. Again, not there. You would lose that notoriety here. Yeah, I keep driving that point home because it's really easy to forget that. You move it here, it does not reset until the end of that part of the day, and everybody changes their notoriety at the same time, okay? But that or that, your choice. That's the same for visiting all 3 of these, visiting all 3 of these, and mostly the same visiting all 3 of these. But for the businesses, it's the same for either set. Any questions about visiting businesses?
Nope.
All right, moving on to the safe houses. The amount of money you have in the various safe houses, again, it's shown on your escape plan. So going back to this, you'll see here that it shows the safe houses. Again, it's some amount of money. And all of these, I keep messing that up, I apologize. There we go. All of these equal 150,000 between the 3 groups. So 150 here, 150 here, 150 here. So safe house 1, 2, and 3 works just like the business is as far as either in-game points or immediate cash. Okay, so I don't feel like I need to belabor that too much. When you visit a safe house, and a safe house looks just like this, which means maybe somebody chose to go there. When you go there, you place a cube out there on either of those. So it's the same as a business in that regard. Okay, you immediately get money or you get in-game victory points. Then you lose 1 notoriety. Notice it shows right here because it's in a safe house. The heat kind of calms things down a little. Again, not there, but you do on your player board. Then you choose one of the available keys. Now these were randomly out here, so there's 3 for each of the safe houses. These keys are going to do one of 2 things. They're going to allow you to unlock a locked business to visit it if it's already been locked, or possibly get some really lucrative in-game victory points for these lockers when we visit convenience stores. So more on those in a little bit. In addition to that, after you've taken a key, you may choose one of these fixer tiles. Which one? Choose. Go through the entire stack and choose whatever it is. So let's say I've gone through the whole stack, but it just so happens that I want this top one. Well, if that's the case, I then immediately pay whatever it shows in the top left-hand corner, then place it on your player board. And again, if you replaced any tile on your board, because just like contact cards, you're limited in space, if I had replaced that for whatever reason, I then, even though it's an inanimate object, it basically brings some heat, so I raise my notoriety by 1. Think of it as I left clues, right, or evidence on a location. And these are available for you to use when applicable, okay? Any questions on the safe houses?
Nope.
All right?
Nope.
And just like the businesses, if you visited all 3, get an extra action disc, or here, you actually get to unlock an asset tile and take cash instead of losing notoriety. Cash. Always nice, because money is tight in this game. Okay? All right. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on to the next location, which are the gang locations. The gang locations are places, well, they have little skull, like motorcycle gang looking guys. Whenever those locations come out, they're going to be populated with 2 gang members on them. When you go there, you're going to pay $5 from your personal coffer, and then you're going to take one of your 2 gang markers down here. You're going to place it onto the gang area that you visited there, and you're going to take the 2 choppers. You're going to put them over here on your player board like so. When you do so, on a given turn, you can turn in one of those 2 gang members to do one of these 3 things. The first thing is you can lose 1 notoriety, again, from up here. The second option is fly up to 2 tiles from a helipad. Well, now, a helipad is this tile. So if you were on this tile or on this tile, because again, here, you can, yeah.
Okay.
These are heliports. Mm-hmm. These are helipads. You can fly from here, just like, think of it as a gang has a helicopter that you can use. Okay? All right? Okay. Then the third option is you can ignore all law enforcement from 1 tile.
So good.
So that is awfully tasty. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? That was my action on this turn. On a subsequent action, maybe I want to go, I think this is the record store, the nightclub. I want to go to this location. So not the club, that was the bar, my bad. Yeah. So 1, into the water, and 2, into the location. I have to avoid all 3 cops. Not so fast, my friend. Thank you, my friends. These guys will go back out there. Done. I've avoided all 3. I don't take any wounds. Nice.
So good. So good.
When you've used the second one, though, your marker will then come back off the board, and then anybody can hire that gang again. Any questions on the gangs?
Nope.
Okay. Exit locations. Right here. So, if that one is out here on the board, those would have come up there onto that location at that point. If it's open, you can get money. If it's closed, you can get money or an exit tile. Okay, so if it's closed, meaning both of those have come out, both of the exit, so in this case, exit 2 cards have come out, we then place these on here. You can either get money or take one of the exit tiles on here. In addition to that, you're going to be able to take 1 contact card, just like previous. And if it's the last open exit, you can pay money to exit the city if it's the 3rd day. So we'll cover that here in a little bit. If it's open, you can take cash. How much cash? Just like any of your other regular income. Take a contact card, same rules apply on that. But if you choose to take an exit tile, you're going to be able to look through any number of these equal to the number of contact cards that you have in your display. So in this case, I have 2, meaning I could draw the first 2. So I could either take nothing and like it, not recommended, or take $50. Well, it might be 70. Now I say take $50, but that's endgame points. Okay, so I would take that 50. I would shuffle these back up. Boom, there. I would place this. Oh no. I have to get rid of something, which means I'm going to lose 1 notoriety. But, you know, it's worth 50 points, so meaning that would come down, or I would gain a notoriety, I should say. Yeah. And this tile is then out of the game. Any questions on the exits other than the end game, how to travel out of them?
Only that the front of the exit tiles indicates the distribution of the numbers.
Good call. There are 2 zeros, there are 2 50s, and 170. Yeah. So draw better in my case. Okay. All right, I've already covered helipads, I've already covered ferries. Now there are a handful of other locations. I'm going to very quickly go through all of these. The hospital location here, you gain notoriety whenever you go there. So you gain 1 as shown on it. And you can heal, depending on how many wounds you want to heal, pay $1, $3, or $6 to heal 1, 2, or 3 wounds. Easy enough. The church, when it comes out, I'll go ahead, oh, there we go. Look, oh, boom, it just came out. There we go. You pay $1 to lose 1 notoriety, as shown right there. You unlock 1 asset tile and take a contact card. Okay, we've covered all of those things, and all the iconography is actually on the tile itself. The convenience store has to do with this area up here. You take one gasoline can, provided you haven't filled both of your spaces already. You may buy 1, 2, or 3 of these equipment cards. These basically are avoid wounds, okay? The gas mask allows you to avoid your choice of a black or a blue wound, red wound, blue wound, or black, okay?
Cops.
Yeah, cops. Yeah. But basically avoid
Yeah.
cops or take wounds, right? Same. In addition to that, remember those keys that you might have gotten over here when you visited safe houses? Depending on the color of key that you have, you then can come over here and open lockers. These are essentially safes. Much like exit tiles that have endgame points on these have endgame points on them, and it shows the distribution on that. The same rules for drawing them mostly apply, is number of contact cards that you have plus 1. You have to have at least 1 notoriety or any mix of notoriety and contact cards that equal 1 or more, i.e. everybody starts with a notoriety, so everybody can always do the green. You can draw however many plus 1 contact cards that you have. You draw that many, choose the best one, put it there, face down, up here, just like we did with the exit tiles. The only difference between the green, the black, and the brown is the prerequisite and how lucrative they are. The prerequisite for the black ones, for notoriety and contact cards, you must have a total of 5 or more. And for the brown ones, you have to have 8 or more. But there's 310s in this one. And 180 and 10, 2 70s, and 2 100s, etc., etc. So that's the convenience store. Any questions on that? All right.
Yes, actually, it's only 2.
Yeah, you're allowed to buy any
It's just
2
2,
of the
okay.
equipment, up to 2. You do not have to buy any.
Yeah.
The clinic, which I don't know is out here, but just take my word for it, that the clinic has a little cross, kind of looks like the hospital. You heal 1 wound, you unlock 1 asset tile, and you take 1 contact card. All right. The subway, we've already covered all that. And the heliport, we've already covered that. Those are all of the movement tiles, or all the locations that are available in the game, all right, that you may cover or that you may encounter during the game, all right? And the exits, I pretty much have covered as well, except for whenever we escape, okay? Phase 6, change a day. All players with rest tokens, if they're on their dark side, flip them over to sunny side up, then reset the time marker back up to the top like it is. Easy enough. All right, let's briefly go over executive actions, and then we'll talk about how you bug out of the game and then how you win, and that's that. So, executive actions. There we go. The executive actions are listed down here in the yellow, right down here. Use contact cards, use asset tiles, you can use equipment, fixer tiles, gangs, or first aid. Well, we've already covered kind of gangs. We covered what they do, but let's go ahead and go through a bunch of what these are. There's no limit to the amount of these that you can use. You pay whatever the associated money is with it. You do what the action is. You're going to score that many victory points at the end of the game. You flip the tile. Boom, easy enough. Same goes with any of the equipment. So let's say I want to avoid 1 SWAT cop in this case. I then flip that over, boom, and it's now used, okay? Same goes, hey, I get to flip 1 contact card back over, possibly, if I've used them, gain a contact card, move 1 blue cop to another tile. Easy enough, right? Using a Band-Aid, hey, take 1 less wound, or remove a wound, either or, okay? And fixer tiles, like I said, up here, easy enough. Any questions on executive actions? The only other thing that I should point out is there are 2 little symbols up here in the top right-hand corner. This is used during avoid. Hey, avoid cops, move cops. That kind of makes sense. During the travel, get a contact card. Okay, so it says when you can do these specific actions, okay? Any questions about executive actions?
Nope.
All right. Let's briefly talk about adjusting notoriety now. So adjusting notoriety is based on whatever you have over here on your main board. So in this case, I would go up 2, down 1, i.e. net 1. So yellow would move up 1. When I cross that threshold, first off, I get to do whatever it says, which is unlock an asset tile. Okay, easy enough. Then everybody with less notoriety than me must move 1 cop on the board closer to the tile that I am on. So in this case, Khan is the only one with less notoriety than me. I am currently on this tile. He can move any cop on the board, anywhere on the board, as long as it's closer to me than where it was.
Let's say I'm here.
Okay, you're there. So what he's probably going to do is move one of these 2 cops there. That is closer to where I'm at, and it helps him. Okay, what he could do, though, is he could move that there if he wanted to be a nice guy. That would never happen, but he cannot move a red cop on there because there's already a red cop, nor could he take this red cop and move it there because that's further away than from where I am. Notice, though, if purple actually crossed that threshold, she would get to unlock 2 asset tiles, which is awesome. But then everybody gets to move 1 cop and must move 1 cop closer to where she is, if possible.
Come at me.
Come on, coppers. All right. Any questions on that?
The only thing to mention that caught me in my first game is that when you move police from one tile to another, they don't have to be adjacent. You can
Correct.
move
That tripped
anywhere
us
on
up.
the map.
Right. So
Anywhere on the map.
So for instance, you could move this one to there. That's a legit movement. No problem there. Okay. All right. Let's say it's day 3. Hey, it's day 3. And exit 2 is found to be the only exit that is left. We've exhausted all these cards, and the only one that didn't get closed was exit 2. That is the only place in which we can exit the city. If it's my turn, and I'm here, on my turn, and I mentioned earlier, you must take an action here, here, or here. This is the one exception to that. I could go... Nope, bad example. Let's say I were there, because I can't you go through the water here.
Yeah,
I go 1, 2, I'm out. First player to get out gets out for free. Congratulations. As they take their worker off the board, they're done. Their game's over. However, every single other player now must pay $1 for every time they want to take an action. So if you want to take all 5 actions and I bugged out and you're after me on the first turn, if let's say I'm first there and I bugged out, everybody would have to pay $1 to be able to take an action. Pay $1 to take an action. Pay $1 to take an action. Extra action and pay $1. Extra action and pay $1.
Yeah.
Okay? In addition to that, after the first player has escaped successfully, in a 5-player game, the second player to escape, they have to pay $5 to the bank to be able to escape, in addition to taking actions, the $1. Third player takes $5, or it costs $5. Fourth and fifth, it costs $10 a piece. You might be asking yourself, what happens if I do not have the money? You're captured, your game is over, you cannot win. Is that clear?
Yeah.
If you do not escape the city, you cannot win. Yeah, who needs that? Right?
It's never going to happen.
Right. Once everyone has been captured, or hopefully everyone has escaped, we then go into final scoring. Final scoring is on this handy dandy little score pad right here. We're going to score total money collected from visiting buildings of the first group, the second group, the safe houses, money behind cash on hand, so money behind your player screen here. You're going to get $10 for every of your asset tiles. Any money on your contact cards you're going to get, depending on the number of contact cards, I apologize, you'll get 10, 30, 0, 10, 30, or 60, or 100, depending on how many contact cards you have, because these numbers right here on them show the total money collected from locker and exit tiles, meaning these, and you lose money for the following. Your position on the notoriety track, so as shown right there, and last but not least, you're going to lose 20, 40, or 60 for depending on how many wounds you have at the end of the game. Whoever has the most money wins. If tied, most money behind the screen wins. If still a tied, least notoriety. If still a tied, wow, that's impressive. Least wounds. If still tied, good Lord, you're sharing your victory. And that, folks, is how you play Escape Plan. Whew. All right, let's reset the board. That's going to take us about an hour and a half. We'll see you all then. Okay. Whew. I'm upset that I got that one thing wrong about exchanging the... oh well.
That's okay. That was
All
a
right.
previous
No,
play.
I was the one who taught you wrong, so.
Well, I went through the rule book and I missed it. All right, we're going to reset the board completely and start from...
I'll call myself out. The subway was my fault, Vittel, because I don't see that iconography on that example the same way you do, I guess, because it looked to me
fine.
when we were looking at it like it was one to move between the subway.
Oh, that's how I saw it as well.
Yeah.
That's how we played it.
And I went back and looked at it again, Vittel, and I'm still seeing it as one point. But I think it's just where the red circles are. It can be confusing for people.
And
That's all.
that.
But now we know. Free between
And knowing's
subway.
half the battle.
Yep.
There's two exceptions that I was just
And
that
escape plans.
Oh yeah, escape plans. When you
Exit times.
when you escape,
Fixers.
your example there was your example when you left was like the easiest exit from this game ever because you had no police on that tile.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
sure, yeah. If you do have to escape police as well because you're leaving a tile, right? I should point that out at the very end. Good call. Thank you.
The other thing I was going to say about was what came up yesterday was that you cannot hang around on a location.
You must move.
Yeah.
You have to move.
Yeah, some
Right.
despicable people. Right?
Hey,
And
All right, those two are the first. Yeah.
Yes,
There
but
we go.
there's one more thing that the last time I taught this game I forgot to tell someone halfway through the game, which is if your notoriety is at 7 and you gain notoriety, in other words, you have topped out here,
yeah.
Take a wound.
you take a wound.
I'm sorry. You take a what?
You take a wound.
A wound. All right. Thank you.
No, that's it. I think you'll find I said wound. Not wound. Wound. And that can be a nightmare.
All right.
But we'll see. So let's get these out.
I assure you, Mark, the longer teach than I expected as well. But it's me. It always happens. But it's thorough.